Please welcome Executive Vice President and General Manager, Oracle Financial Services, Sonny Singh.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this solution keynote. It's really nice to see a lot of people here, and especially with their focus on financial crime. As the video suggests, this is a real problem facing our world today, and I'll talk a lot about that. Firstly, let me just start out by thanking all of you for joining us at Oracle CloudWorld in Las Vegas. I know everybody has a day job, and you have to put that on hold to come in and participate in all these sessions, provide us your input, share your successes with us, and we are very grateful for that. So thanks and welcome. This is one of many solution keynotes that we will do over the course of the next day and a half. This is just the first one, and we focused on financial crime. At the back end of the session, I'll talk a little more about all the other sessions that we are going to hold over the course of the next day and a half. So let's get started. As you saw on this video, let me just punch out a single point. So the GDP of the world is going to grow to potentially $100 trillion between this year and next year, depending upon how the macroeconomic environment goes. It is, by every estimate, about 3% of that global GDP that gets laundered out and gets used for nefarious purposes. The UN estimates the total impact of money laundering to be approximately $2.1 trillion. This is the amount of money that's getting generated through criminal activity every single year. And let's take a moment and pause and let that sink in. This is the illicit proceeds year after year that are getting pumped into criminal activities. And on the flip side of the equation, a similar amount of money is probably going to be spent in fighting money laundering and other such financial crimes. When you add up everything that the banks spend, the regulators spend, law enforcement like DEA, FBI, and other national agencies, all of them are spending trillions of dollars fighting financial crime. And as you saw in the video, you really can't put a price to all the social and emotional turmoil associated with financial crime. So this is a grave and serious matter. The worst part about this is, after spending all that money and creating all these agencies and creating all the systems, processes, and regulations, only 1% of that money is actually getting caught in the dragnets that we are creating in both financial crime management and law enforcement. The rest of it is still getting pumped into a series of illegal activities. So this is the problem facing the industry today. Large amounts of illicit cash involved in all kinds of nefarious activities and creating a lot of social evils like trafficking, drugs, and terrorism. Let's talk a little more about some of the challenges faced by banks today. So, as you can see here, 3% on the average of a bank's revenue is actually spent in fighting financial crime. So you can think about that from the standpoint of the top line. So 3% of revenues. Imagine that the impact that it has on the profitability of the bank, right? So that's the amount of money that's just coming out from the bank's bottom line and profitability. Banks just in North America are spending $42 billion today in fighting financial crime. And that's the cost of compliance. The other side of the equation is the cost of non-compliance. Since 2007, banks have paid more than $342 billion just in fines. So think about the drain on profitability and shareholder value as a result of this challenge. To make matters worse, this problem is not getting any better. What we saw in the pandemic was the number of digital customers went up by 3 times. The number of digital transactions went up 6 times, right? Banks and other financial institutions are trying to keep up with the fintechs in creating new user experiences and providing new channels. And this is increasing the threat surface available for the bad actors to attack. And these bad actors are actually getting better. They're using advanced technologies. To sum it all up, regulators are increasing their scrutiny. So you think about the amount of money being spent, the impact of non-compliance, both financially and in terms of reputational damage, and then you think about a problem that's constantly getting worse. So this is the landscape that we are all operating in as a financial services industry in terms of fighting financial crime. So what does this need? I'm going to now talk a little bit about some of the things that Oracle has been working on to help financial institutions fight financial crime. So Oracle has had 25 years of experience building and delivering capabilities to the market. These are market-leading capabilities. It is an integrated financial crime and compliance portfolio of solutions that helps financial institutions identify risks earlier and faster throughout the phases of the entire customer lifecycle. So Oracle Financial Services Crime Platform modernizes all aspects of detection, prevention, investigation, and reporting across functions like KYC, know your customer, customer due diligence, sanction screening, and anti-money laundering. So all aspects of financial crime detection and prevention are a part of this portfolio. In addition, we provide an integrated investigation framework, everything from enterprise case management, automation of all the critical workflows so that many of the alert processes, as an example, can just flow through. The ones that require further investigation make their way through automation and workflows into a unified enterprise case management system. And a very detailed and modern investigation hub that brings together both first-party, third-party data, structured and unstructured, empowering investigators and analysts to quickly focus their attention on the most important alerts and then take them through their life cycle to suspicious activity reporting as necessary. We have a complete regulatory reporting capability around FATCA for customer onboarding and for other areas like customer risk scoring, for the common reporting standards, and currency transaction reporting. So all the elements that are being required by regulators are available out of box. A very broad, comprehensive portfolio integrated across FCCM functions, everything from detection all the way to prevention and investigation, all in a single suite built on a common platform. Very powerful capability. The platform brings together all the elements of advanced analytics, and we continue to extend our market-leading position by delivering all of these capabilities on the cloud so that we can not only bring these advanced techniques to modern Tier 1 institutions, but we can take them down market to all of the banks, regardless of their size and complexity. And in this way, we are continuing to leverage these capabilities to facilitate both better financial crime protection and to help our customers reduce their overall cost of complying with regulations. let's talk a little bit about all the complex technologies that we are building into our financial crime platform. So Oracle's Compliance Studio, which is a very innovative product, and we'll see elements of it today, is a purpose-built advanced analytics platform for modern financial crime and compliance management. It leverages all the data, third-party and first-party, leverages structured and unstructured data, graph analytics, AI and machine learning to help our customers not only detect a broader range of criminal activity, but to investigate it more efficiently. We accelerate business transformation with AI embedded natively across all the functions. So in terms of bringing in graph analytics for entity resolution, for interactive visualization of criminal activity, so you can detect things like multi-hop relationships, you can identify hub and scope activity, and you can quickly establish UBO, ultimate beneficiary ownership of transactions. So we provide you with an integrated platform where you can manage both rule-based as well as machine learning model-based detection capabilities, all in a single platform. In addition to that, we have a single environment for managing all of your models, right? So you have a comprehensive way to actually deliver what we call responsible AI that delivers transparency and fairness and allows you to actually keep up with your regulatory obligations in terms of using machine learning models. So this built on Oracle's natural DNA of being able to leverage data, regardless of its source, regardless of its structure, so that you can take advantage of everything you know about your customers from both within the four walls of your institution and outside, but bring it together with the right level of machine learning so that you can deliver insights to your investigators to quickly resolve challenging issues which have been preponderant in increasing the cost of investigation and reporting of criminal activity. These are some of the things that we have built over the course of the last many years, and then incorporated all the modern technologies that you hear about in helping financial institutions deliver next-generation capabilities. To talk a little bit about this, let's actually show you a little more. So, fighting financial crime is not just about understanding the needs and challenges of the industry and safeguarding the bank and its reputation. It's more than that. It is about safeguarding people, society, against all the social evils that we've talked about. So at Oracle, we continuously invest. And here today, to talk about some of the new innovations that we've done in this space, I'm going to introduce one of the leaders of our product strategy, Jason Somrak, who's going to talk about some of the new innovations that we've done and give you a glimpse into what's coming from Oracle. Jason was actually going to be here in person, but is down with COVID. So we are going to view the session with Jason on video. Jason, over to you.
Thank you, Sonny. The first thing I want to share is a way in which we're revolutionizing the investigative experience to empower our users to make the world a safer place. We do this with Investigation Hub Cloud Service. Investigation Hub is incredible. It's a contextualized case investigation platform which translates data to meaningful insights and enables access to diverse data sets in a timely manner, rapid identification of both risky and non-risky behavior, situational awareness to generate new insights and increase the speed and accuracy at which investigators make decisions, and next-gen intelligence with our investigative canvas, which features swappable widgets that allow users to bring in powerful advanced analytics as their investigation needs it. We solve all of these problems and more with Investigation Hub. Now let me show you how this empowers investigators to detect and understand the most complex and time-consuming cases with speed and precision. Investigation Hub centralizes the most common data onto one page. Any other data is one click away. The top part of the dashboard tells us that Jane Doe is our primary focus. She has one account, is 23 years old from Reno, Nevada, and has multiple events fired in the month of September for a total of $19,500. The case events section shows you the specific events which were created. If you'd like, you can also toggle to view the specific alerted transactions which led to those events. This is the step most other systems would have you do. However, we provide investigative guidance to identify why this event was created specifically for Jane. Take the human trafficking event as an example. While there are many risk factors to evaluate for human trafficking, the investigative guidance focuses our investigation to the risks that are relevant specifically for Jane in human trafficking. In this case, she mostly transacts in the evenings and only on the weekends. She uses ATMs with risky locations and maintains a low account balance, all strong indicators of human trafficking. The chart to the right brings situational awareness by displaying three behaviors. Number one, how a typical customer behavior maps to human trafficking risks, and that's represented by that small circle in light green. The second is the behavior of entities we've previously determined to be suspicious in regards to human trafficking, represented as that slightly larger orange circle. And three, how Jane compares against both, with her represented in blue. Instantly, we can tell her behavior is an outlier without having to sift through rows of data or mountains of data. In just this visual, we can determine Jane exhibits extreme risk of human trafficking. If we look below, we'll see the entity details. You'll notice the profile summary is a mix of data attributes like date of birth, but also insights like who are Jane's most common counterparties and what is her source of funds. The risk summary section shows us when Jane was last risk scored, when she's due to be scored again, and we can also see some situational awareness as what are her top three contributing risk factors. They are that she's cash intensive, she's a new customer, and she's located in a high risk area. The compliance summary tells us if Jane has been reviewed before, in what scenarios, and offers some additional situational awareness by extracting key sentiments out of any prior narrative. So here we can see that Jane was reviewed once in the ATM scenario with no action taken. The key sentiment was that the deposits were small, the funds were used for typical resale purchases, and it appeared to be an isolated incident. And lastly, to the right, we can see accounts that Jane Doe owns or is linked to. She has one active account, and we can see the current balance and the date of the last transaction. We also see two accounts tagged as shared info. Investigation Hub determined these three accounts are all using the same phone number, and we can see that common phone number annotated in the cards. As I mentioned earlier, all the data we need is one click away. By clicking her account card, we can take a closer look at her behavior. So now we can see what her current deposit and withdrawal activity are compared against historical averages. The pie chart shows us which channels she's utilizing. Beneath this, we can toggle to see a list of all of her transactions, or we can view charts which plot her credits and debits, giving us an overall sense of how her behavior is trending. The pie chart here also shows us what her source of funds is. In this instance, it's all cash. At the bottom of this, we see the chart on the left is showing us that she only makes deposits through Thursday through Sunday and has large withdrawals on Monday. The right side of the chart shows us that when she's using her account, the time of day in which she's using her account, in this instance, that's only between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. All of these data points help affirm my hypothesis and what the system is telling us that this might be potential human trafficking victim. Going back to the dashboard, we scroll down to the canvas, our last section. Here we can see Jane's behavior contextualized in a graph, and how money comes into the account in green, how money leaves the account via orange edges. We can also leverage powerful features like network evolution to see the sequence of Jane's behavior. While we default to this graph view, we allow users to switch to any of our case widgets, like geographic analysis, graph similarity. All of these are selectable, and firms can customize them and add the widgets as they like. If we scroll back to the top, we can compile our dossier, which builds the case file, all of the evidence, all of the steps of our investigation, generates an NLG narrative, and prepares it for a closing action. Hopefully you've seen in this short glimpse how we're able to make very complex cases like human trafficking easy to investigate by centralizing all investigative data, bringing forward situational awareness, and allowing investigators the ability to explore and act all within one platform. Now, I want to show you how we are enabling firms to finally understand the true strengths and weaknesses of their compliance program. Compliance Agent Cloud Service is groundbreaking, not just in this field, but any field. From the ground up, we developed the agent leveraging reinforcement learning to be able to deploy synthetic money launderers which learn how to launder money through your firm. With the click of a few buttons, we define your environment. This learning environment replicates your firm. It contains the scenarios you use to detect crime, the products you offer to your customers, the controls you have on those customers, and many other controls. The deployed agents try thousands of times to move money without being detected. By the end, our agents are intelligent actors. We use the learnings from all of these attempts to generate completely new insights for compliance, like what is the strength of your overall system? What scenarios, accounts, and channels are most likely to be evaded by an intelligent actor? What controls should you put in place? And what is the approximate cost of putting those controls into place? Let's take a look. This is the compliance agent dashboard. At this point, we've already deployed synthetic money launderers, and now we're able to identify the strengths and weaknesses that they've found. In the top left corner, we see the overall strength of our entire program, sitting right above 70%. So we can see we're doing okay, but we have some room for improvement. To the right, we can see the results for each individual segment that we have sorted in order of highest risk. We can see those same segments visualized in the bar chart below, where we can easily identify what segments are performing well and some that may not be. In this instance, EMEA regular risk is our most vulnerable segment. Beneath this, we're able to gain system-level insights like what is our most vulnerable scenario, being large reportable, our most vulnerable account type as checking, and our most vulnerable channel as wires. But let's go back to the top and address our most critical segment. As we click any segment, in this case EMEA RR, the dashboard dynamically updates to be segment specific. We're able to see which scenarios we have monitoring this segment, and we see two that stand out as being the most vulnerable: large reportable and rapid movement of funds. We can also scroll down and see account and channel level vulnerabilities specifically for this segment, showing us that our checking account types are the most vulnerable for this segment. As we scroll up again to the right, you'll see our system recommendations, which is my favorite part. Here you see two recommendations. The first is telling us to address the checking account vulnerability by tuning the rapid movement scenario. Before generating the experiment, we can view the analysis behind our recommendation. This analysis shows us which channels the agents prefer to use in this segment. So in this instance, they prefer to use wire transactions across both debit and credit. And we can see that, for instance, they prefer wire credits between $8,000 and $9,500, as well as wire debits between $11,000 and $16,500. This tells us that we can improve our system if we monitor transactions in this range more thoroughly. So let's go back and we can generate the experiment. We can either use system recommended values that will help us address this vulnerability, or users do have the ability to go in and make edits as they change. Once we move on from this page, barring any changes, we'll get a summary and final confirmation if we'd like to make any changes before generating the experiment. In this instance, we just generated it, and the results will bring up a before and after report to show us a summary of our experiment set. We see that we improved segment strength by 43%. But it's not just important to know what your vulnerabilities are and how to address them. It's important to know how that change will affect your workforce. So that's why we also estimate on this report the impact to your alert volumes. In this case, we estimate that we will increase your alert volumes by only 4%. If we want to accept these results, we're taken back to the main dashboard where we can see our overall program strength and what impact that might have. In this instance, we can see we increased our overall system strength by 14%, and that this segment is no longer critical for us. So this is just a glimpse of what the compliance agent can do. But imagine a future where we deploy agents trained in human trafficking and these other atrocious crimes that we've talked about today, giving you precious insights to strengthen your program, detect crime in new ways, and make the world a safer place. Sonny, back to you.
Thank you, Jason. So hopefully that gave all of you a glimpse on some of the things that we are working on, how we are using some of the most modern technologies to help financial crime. I'd mentioned earlier that we've got 25 years of experience from just a linear perspective focused on financial crime technologies and bringing them to market and working with our customers to constantly innovate and improve those capabilities. We have more than 1,000 professionals that are focused exclusively in building, deploying, and supporting these technologies in our customer base. And most importantly, we have access to more than $7 billion of R&D spend that Oracle is putting out every single year, taking advantage of all the technologies that are being built inside the four walls of Oracle and externally, and bringing them to bear in this important area. So a huge amount of focus. So what does that bring us? A huge amount of industry recognition. Leading analyst firms like Chartis, Celent, Quadrant, all of them are recognizing the efforts. I was particularly happy to see one of the comments from an analyst who said, "We are particularly impressed by Oracle's practical application of advanced technology to solve complex challenges and its ability to deliver strong, tangible outcomes for its clients." So you can see that a lot of the work that we've been doing is starting to bear results, not only for Oracle as a provider of these technologies, but to the actual practitioners, our customer base. So let me talk a little bit about our customer base. These are our crown jewels. So Oracle has had a tremendous amount of success in bringing these solutions to our customers and enabling them to fight financial crime. Four out of the 5 top US banks, 4 out of the 5 top Canadian banks, 4 of the top 5 EU banks, and more than 175 customers across the globe in every single continent are using our technologies to detect financial crime and to cooperate and collaborate with law enforcement to bring bad actors to bear. I've mentioned a number of leading indicators of the and outcomes that these banks are achieving: decommissioning legacy systems and consolidating them into a single platform, leveraging AI and ML techniques to augment rule-based technologies to detect even more threat scenarios and identifying evolving threat scenarios, saving money in AML operations, driving down the cost of compliance, increasing the speed of deployment, and finally, and most importantly, reducing the number of false positives, because they are a crippling effect on the investigative process. So these are some of the results that our customers are achieving around the globe. These are our crown jewels. We work day and night to help our customers achieve these kind of outcomes. So I now want to take the opportunity to have you talk to one of our customers, a practitioner in the financial crime industry. So I'm going to introduce you to Stuart Davis. Stuart Davis is the Executive Vice President for Financial Crime and Risk Management at Scotiabank. Okay, so Stuart Davis is not only a practitioner in the financial services industry, he's a friend, he's a customer, and most importantly, he's a crusader against human trafficking and modern slavery. Stuart, as I mentioned, is the Executive Vice President of Financial Crime Risk Management, and he's the Group Chief Anti-Money Laundering Officer, the CAMLO, for Scotiabank. In this role, he provides strategic direction for enterprise-wide anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financing programs and the associated financial crime risks. As I mentioned, Stuart is also a staunch supporter of human rights. He has leveraged his position in the financial services sector to exert resources and influence in the fight against human trafficking and child exploitation. Most recently, Stuart championed Project Shadow, and we'll hear a little more about that. It's a public-private partnership co-led by Scotiabank, FinTrack, and the Canadian Centre for Child Protection to improve the detection and the facilitation, improve detection and facilitation of child sexual exploitation. So this is serious stuff that Stuart's involved with, and we'll hear a lot about him. Let me, without further ado, take this moment to bring Stuart Davis onto the podium here. Stuart, welcome.
Well, thank you, Sonny, for having me.
Excellent.
And thank you also. I was with Jason last week, so best on his recovery.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'll pass that along. He's fighting COVID right now. So, Stuart, firstly, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you're doing this over Zoom, so we are bringing modern collaboration technologies into this conversation. We have an audience here that is waiting to hear from you. So, at the very outset, what I would like to do is just ask you what brought you into financial crime.
Well, sure. I got my start in banking way back in the early 90s, and I'll be ever thankful to the OCC for giving me my first career opportunity right out of university. If you can believe it, at the time I was making $16,500 a year salary, checking on banks' compliance programs, of which AML did not exist at the time. And so I learned a lot about risk management, though, and I learned a lot about really putting in effective programs into place. And from that, I was able to leapfrog my career ultimately into some compliance functions in the early days in North Carolina. As I grew my career in North Carolina, we had the inevitable and tragic events of 9/11, which really propelled me quickly into the AML space. Anti-money laundering, anti-terrorism was the main focus at that time. And it's been just steady growth since that time.
Excellent. Well, we are glad you're doing what you're doing because you're having major impact. Let me talk a little bit about Scotiabank. In all my dealings with Scotia over the last decade or so, I've noticed a very strong risk culture, right? It's sophisticated, it's mature, and I thought it would be great to hear from you how that culture is helping you and your team to do the stellar job that you guys are doing in fighting financial crime.
Well, thank you for that recognition. Scotiabank is a great company. We're in over 35 different countries. And when we think about the challenges we face in money laundering and fighting money laundering, as well as other forms of financial crime, it's different all across the globe. So you really need a team that's dynamic, can think in a diversity of ways, and frankly, a team that's global to be able to fight financial crime in an organization such as Scotiabank. You talk about the culture of compliance, and really, how do you have that strong culture of compliance? Well, it starts from the top down. You have CEOs and boards and leadership that says we want to do the right thing. You've got, of course, regulatory pressures always, and you mentioned the fines that the industry has seen. And we see those externally, but we want to have an effective program so we don't have to face those fines either. And then more importantly, strong risk culture really comes from having that personal passion, that motivation, that spirit to say we are doing the right thing, we want to do the right thing, and engaging hard on it. Whether it just be doing those activities internal that you need to accomplish to fight financial crime, or facing those external challenges and engaging in policy making, engaging in some of the external influences that you can have as an organization. And what's great about Scotiabank is we're large enough and we're in enough countries where you have multiple points of interaction with both society, government, civic organizations, as well as all your customers, whether they be wealth customers, retail customers, capital market customers. We can make impact.
So no presentations complete without its technical challenges. So I just wanted to mention to our technology support organization that we are seeing some lag here, but we'll keep going, Stuart. So I talked a little bit about the evolving threats and how the criminals are getting smarter. From a financial institution perspective, tell us a little bit about how these threats are evolving and how banks are dealing with this evolving threat matrix in the area of financial crime.
In the financial crime space, Sonny, we're seeing more and more products come to market each and every day. And every one of these new products brings new opportunities for the bad actors to exploit, take advantage of people. During the COVID crisis, extraordinary amounts of fraud occurred, whether it was against banks or against individuals. These types of things contribute to financial crime, and the proceeds of those crimes go into the money laundering, system. They get pushed around the world, and those are the very opportunities we're looking for to stop and to attack. But the points of interaction, the points of, I guess, that we have to look for vulnerabilities, that we have to be cognizant of as potential areas of exploit are always increasing. And that's what makes this job very, very challenging. The other thing that we see going on is a lot of mixing of legitimate proceeds of money from actual businesses with the illegitimate activities of companies. And so once that mixing occurs, it gets harder and harder to be able to detect it. Let me talk a little bit about the sophistication of the criminal element, right? As we've got more sophisticated with the advances in technology and our abilities to fight financial crime, the criminal element, the criminal ecosystem has gotten much more sophisticated. There are entire call centers that are doing nothing now but preying on people, trying to determine who may be more vulnerable to exploit than others. And then that information gets contributed to databases that the bad actors have and gets used in further exploitation. And then on the more sophisticated end of things, with conflict situations like we're seeing between the war in Russia and Ukraine, the challenge there is that there is money laundering occurring at the geopolitical, the state actor level, right? Where complex corporate structures, 4 or 5 layers removed from the original source of funds, are being used to launder money and move sophisticated assets across the globe, buy up real estate and things of that sort.
Wow. So clearly the notion is moving from individual criminals trying to facilitate a drug transaction to things at a national and political level. So as this threat matrix evolves, what are some of the technological capabilities that you're bringing to bear so that you can combat this evolving threat matrix?
Well, what I find very interesting is we haven't lost the use of the old traditional ways, but we sure have added a lot of new tools to the toolbox. The original ways were just human intelligence. What's going on at the front line? What are our retail bankers seeing? What are our corporate executives seeing through customer interactions? And does that present an opportunity for a red flag? So we have to, at a base level, we have to have a very good training program. We have to have a way of communicating risk from the front line back to our core hubs of review and investigation. But also, we use simple rules, right? Have they exceeded certain thresholds? Have they done transactions over a certain dollar amount within a certain period of time? Are there something unusual about those transactions? Well, that's really the base end of the scale, the most simple way to approach this. And then a little more sophisticated, we have a key function you mentioned called KYC. What do we know about our customer? And this is an area that has rapidly expanded and is continuing to expand. Used to, KYC meant that we were collecting, 4 or 5 basic pieces of information. And what that information was could vary, of course, between jurisdiction or a complexity of organization. Obviously, you'd be collecting more for corporate customers. But in today's world, we're not just collecting that information, we're asking questions, both required questions from the regulatory authorities, but also questions that come about through proper due diligence. Who are these people associated with? What are these organizations conducting? What are their subsidiaries? What countries are they operating in? And building really a graph or a network intelligence, we call it entity resolution, help us understand that person, their behaviors and their activities, not just at the point we onboard them, but over the life cycle of that customer. So it's a continuously evolving KYC. And then finally, we get into areas such as AI, machine learning, where we're taking data, we're enriching it, we're applying name screening, we're doing risk scoring. Really, when we're in some of the human trafficking work, we have 7 or 8 layers of processing, data enrichment, filtering, refinement to look for certain types of transactions, for example. And so what used to be simple, where you'd run a rule, you'd look at an alert, now goes to multiple layers of processing prior to even looking at the alert, and then you bring in the additional data and present it to the investigator for the final analysis. So it is this end-to-end ecosystem, but each one of these stages is getting increasingly more sophisticated as this industry matures.
Thank you, Stuart. I think you gave us a very good idea of the people, the processes, technology and tools, and how you're bringing them to bear. I think let's take this to a practical example. In very brief terms, could you please talk a little bit about Project Shadow? I think that's an amazing example of the work that's happening in this area. So it'll be great to hear from you about it.
So we got involved and really started the very first public-private partnership in Canada, or myself and my team, members of my team, back in 2015. But as my career progressed and I moved to Scotiabank, we saw an opportunity to address an area that was not being properly addressed. And this is the online exploitation of children. In fact, it's a crime that almost doubled in size during the COVID pandemic. People are selling content, video of children being exploited sexually online, and it's just a horrendous crime. This leads to other criminal activities often, but 2 years ago, we started a public-private partnership, as you mentioned, with the National Center to End Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation in Canada, as well as with FinTrack, to say, what can we do collectively to look for the typologies of this crime and make changes, both in terms of reporting, but also the investigation, the law enforcement, the prosecution of these criminal activities. Because banks are just a part of the ecosystem. You really need an effective law enforcement team, an effective judicial team, and you want the wiring of all that coming together to work well. Also, interestingly in this space are the data service providing companies. So the likes of the social media companies where content is distributed or data moves. They're a very important part of this ecosystem as well. And so I had an opportunity to join a board of an organization called the We Protect Global Alliance, which brings together both media companies, social media companies, NGOs, nonprofits, governments, and private enterprise. Scotiabank was the first bank to join. And really, we said, how can we focus on the financial aspects of this exploitation of children? These are crimes that are committed across the border or cross-border, but they also occur within countries. And unfortunately, the United States has become one of the major hubs of distribution now in the past 2 years. It used to be some countries outside of the US, but now the US has become. So we've taken this concept of Project Shadow, and we've already had over 120 reports filed in Canada in the past 2 years, and they're increasing day by day. But we've brought that same initiative under the name of Project Umbra to the United States. We're working with an NGO called the Noble in the United States to get this launched. We went down to Peru. We got this launched in Peru, and we're looking to bring this really as one of the first international public-private partnerships. Again, the government working with the banks, working with local nonprofits, and working with law enforcement. That's how we're going to make an impact, and that's how we're going to make a change.
That's amazing, Stuart. So what I heard you say is transformational technologies, information sharing, public-private partnership, and sheer strategic intent. That's all that's all the things that we have to bring to bear to fight financial crime. So thank you so much for joining. We are grateful for your time and sharing your perspectives with all of us here today. So let me quickly conclude here. This was just one of the first sessions in financial crime that we had today. We have a number of other sessions that are coming up. We're going to talk about corporate banking, empowering customers through the next generation of customer banking experiences, modernizing financial institutions from a risk and finance perspective, and simplifying healthcare. These are many of the things that we'll be bringing to you over the course of the next day and a half. But most importantly, no event like this is complete without the opportunity to network, celebrate, and enjoy each other's company. So please join our conversation at the Financial Services Industry Reception tomorrow. It's going to be at the Canaletto restaurant, which is literally on level 2 at the Venetian. So look forward to seeing all of you there, and thank you so much for joining our session here today. Appreciate it.